Here we have a plasma cutter. It is an awesome, awesome tool. This thing will slice through steel like it's butter. The downside is this plasma cutter costs $2,199. Over here we have a plasma cutter that also, in theory, cuts through steel, but it costs $187. Today on Zero to Awesome, we're gonna check out the $187 plasma cutter. So this is the Vevor Cut 50p, and this sells right now on Amazon for less than $200. And I say sells on Amazon, I like their slogan, tough tools, half price. But the problem is Vevor actually sent this to me for free to test out, so I need to make a quick change before we get into the review. Tough tools, free. There we go, this is much more appropriate. But even before Vevor reached out and sent this to me, I've actually been looking at cheap plasma cutters on Amazon for a while. It seems almost too good to be true that I can get something that performs like this for a tenth of the price. And today we'll find out if that's actually true or not. But one thing, big difference when all the shopping that I've done, is that this plasma cutter does not have a built-in air compressor. That plasma cutter does have a built-in air compressor. And so a plasma cutter basically takes a gas, in this case compressed air, and an electron or electrode or just electricity, puts them together, creates an arc, cuts through metal. So you need that air. This came with all the parts to get air from my air compressor. So first thing we have to do is actually read the instructions and figure out how to assemble our plasma cutter. Well, quick update, I thought this was gonna be a time lapse of me assembling the plasma cutter, but I read all the instructions and there's no instructions on how to assemble the plasma cutter. It just says connect compressor to air. But I am relatively intelligent. They send me a relatively good number of parts. I've got an air dryer and regulator. I've got some plumbing. I've got some brackets and Teflon tape. So I think we're just gonna mount this to this using this plumb air hose into machine through valve. And then I guess I need to try and adapt this fitting to actually hook up to my air compressor because my air compressor isn't gonna connect to just a tube. So we'll get creative. I think I have all the parts here to make this work. And once we figure out how to assemble it, we're gonna test it. Well, YouTube, I'm back. And you might be expecting to see me putting my Vevor, still haven't figured out how to pronounce it, plasma cutter through its paces. But a keen eye will tell you that I'm wearing different clothes, got a haircut, shaved my beard, and I'm drinking a pickle beer to punish myself because I failed. Around this YouTube channel, we post our videos at noon on Friday. And when I was getting this video ready, I was going out of town, I was going on vacation Friday afternoon. So my plan was to literally post the video at noon on a Friday and then flee the country and not worry about all your angry comments until I got back. The problem is the night before when I was editing this video, I realized the entire, actually using the tool and reviewing the tool part, I recorded in time lapse. So there's a lot of me going really fast and saying things unintelligibly. But now I'm back. I had a great vacation. Thank you everyone for asking. It was incredible, very relaxed. But I'm going to get everything out of my garage, get the cars out of the way, get the welding table set back up, get these bad boys back up and powered in, and we are going to actually use and review the cheap plasma cutter because, spoiler alert, it's awesome. Also, fun fact, while I was out of town, my electric car got an update, so now clearing everything out of my garage to do this video is a little easier because I just tell the car to drive itself out. It's not fast, but it's faster than me doing it. As long as it stops before it gets to the fence. We're good. Back to the tool review. We are set up and ready to go, and we're even taking safety precautions because I don't want to plasma cut my finger off. But we're hooked in to 240 volts of power. We have the air compressor hooked up, and it's not lost on me that the air compressor air is going from right here up my wall, through my attic, to that reel, down this line, and into right over here. It's possibly the least efficient use of air compressor this garage has ever seen. The metal we're gonna cut first is about 1/8 of an inch, which really isn't that thick. So according to my handy dandy chart that I have on the front of the plasma cutter here, I've got my air set to 50 PSI, and I'm gonna put my dial, my power, somewhere in the middle. So we're set up, let's turn it on. We have a fan, we have power, let's cut. For $200, that works really, really well. When I first started doing this review about a week and a half ago, it took me a little bit to dial it in. I had a little too much air pressure, not enough power, and I was getting quite a lot of slag. But once I got it dialed in, especially this thin stuff, it's cutting super smooth. There's a little bit of slag that we can chip off if I knew where my chipping hammer was. But that, for everything I do in this garage, that's gonna do the trick. So let's try and cut through something a little thicker. This is the same little piece of junk steel that we're cutting on, but we flipped it around because this end is doubled up and riveted together. This side is actually about 1/4 inch, two pieces 1/8 inch put together. I think that's 1/4. So we're gonna turn the air up a little bit to about 80 PSI on the plasma cutter and see if we can cut through 1/4 inch of steel with the cheap cutter. And when I was testing this out last week, we didn't try and cut anything this thick, so I really don't know how this is gonna turn out. But we're set up, we're grounded, our piece we're cutting is clamped down, so let's find out together. I would say 1/4 inch also does not seem to be an issue with this machine. I just turned the machine off and the fans are actually still running, which I noticed that last time. I like it. It actually will run the fans to cool the machine down. And then when the thermostat says it's okay, it'll shut off so you don't do a lot of cutting. You're at the edge of the temperature range of the machine and then you shut it off. It doesn't cool and you just melt your device. So I'm gonna put this side by side with the Hypotherm and we're gonna talk about the differences. The $2,000 Hypotherm Plasma Cutter versus the $200 Amazon Plasma Cutter Special. There are some differences between the two, and the two biggest ones, I think, well, the most important one is the Hypotherm. It has its own onboard air compressor. We don't have to deal with this regulator. We don't have to have an extra air compressor. We don't have to run air lines through our attic and across the garage and all over the place. The Hypotherm, we plug it into power, you're good to go. This guy, you need power and air. And to be completely honest, the air regulator that came with this, it's not that great. It's already a little leaky. And I do think I like the cheap plasma cutter enough that I'm gonna go back on Amazon and order a slightly nicer regulator so that it's not as leaky when I use it. Onboard air compressor, if it's worth the extra money to you, in some situations it might be if you're out in the field and you can't haul an air compressor around. For me, I'm in the garage doing DIY stuff. To save $1,800, I'm fine just hooking into my air compressor. But the difference that really boggles my mind comes to the torch, the handle that you actually cut with, and the ground that you have to use to ground the piece that you're cutting. So both the Hypotherm and the Vevor, I still don't know. They come with I had to get my tape measure back out to check. They come with 14, about 15-foot torches. So the line that goes from the thing you cut with back to the plasma cutter is about 15 feet long. And on the Hypotherm, the ground, which again you have to ground it to the piece you're cutting, is also 15 feet long. The ground on the Vevor is 6 feet long. Like what's what's the point? I thought a long lead would be to get the machine away from where you're cutting down, or like let you get around your shop or get around your garage. But with this one, I have to be within 6 feet of what I'm working on, even though I have an extra 10 feet of lead here. This is clearly a way to cheap out. I'm sure I can get some copper welding wire and make this 16 feet long, and I probably will, but that just seems silly. They give you such a nice lead to work with, but you're stuck within 5 feet of your machine. The same story happens back here with the power plugs. Both these machines are 240 and they both come with adapters to work on 120, but I get, again, about 5-6 feet of power cord on the Vevor, and on the Hypotherm, well, I get a solid 10 feet of extension cord to get to my machine. So yeah, I thought I could put this anywhere in my garage, but it turns out I need to be 5 feet from my 240 power outlet, and then I have to be ground within 5 feet of that. So I get to do all my plasma cutting right here in this little area. Thankfully, that workbench isn't flammable, and that workbench isn't, well, no, actually they're both wood. Those are both flammable. All in all, I think the cheap Amazon machine is great. It's gonna have a permanent place in my garage once I do a little more reorganization and find some space for it. If I worked on metal for a living, or if I had to pay my bills with the plasma cutter, I'd probably find a way to justify spending the more money on the Hypotherm. The machine, it's a little less tinny, it's a little more robust. There's just small things that are a little nicer, like it has somewhere to actually wrap up and store your cords, where this came with a cord organizer that, since there were no instructions, I haven't figured out how or where they mount. And just some other things like being able to work actually, 10 to 15 feet away from your power outlet. That's probably gonna be a big plus in the long run. But for what I do, in the garage, working on old cars and working on barbecues and just little projects now and then, $200, this is definitely a way to go. I suppose the only thing left for me to do is finish my pickle beer, which is truly disgusting, and get my garage all cleaned up again. Hope the Tesla doesn't run into the wall when it backs itself into the garage. And well, honestly, I think I'm gonna plan my next vacation so I don't have to read the angry comments on this video. But if you do have any questions, or if you actually know how to pronounce the name of this company, please let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'm gonna go look at plane tickets. Good news, I figured out how to install the cable organizer. And in doing so, I decided to read the warning labels, and this is my favorite part. Danger, don't touch the electric part. Yeah, just don't touch the electric part, you'll be fine.